Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Everything MMA for our second installment of The Coach and the Kid. Once again, I am the kid. We have the coach here. Coach, introduce yourself for the people that don't know you.
This is the coach. If you don't know me, you need to. I'm here with the kid. Always happy to be back with him. He's the expert. I'm the kind of wannabe, but I love the sport. So let's dive into it.
Let's do it, Coach. We're happy to have you back once again. And following up UFC 317, one of the most elite cards of the year, we have UFC Nashville with Lewis and Teixeira. And Coach, I was sitting down before this event and I was thinking this may be the perfect event for Nashville because Nashville is really known for country music and their bar scene. And a lot of these fights are going to look like a sloppy bar fight. So it's perfect for the fans. They're used to it already. 3 out of the 6 fights on the main card feature guys that have either fought at heavyweight or it is currently a heavyweight bout. But there's also a couple sneaky fights, Coach. I know Nate the Train's on here. You like him. Also, Calvin Cater returns after a long layoff and a couple injuries. So, kind of a lackluster card on paper. But like I always say, if there are fights happening this weekend, we're going to break it down. Whether it's Conor McGregor fighting 2 guys in a bar or UFC Nashville, Lewis versus Teixeira. It happens to be the latter this weekend. Coach, let's get right into it.
Yeah, great intro, by the way. This could be a bunch of bar fights, especially the main event. You got two big boys, and is this a 5 rounder? I didn't even check.
This is 5, yeah. So this main event is 5. So let's hope it doesn't go 5. I don't want to sit through 5 rounds.
It's not going 5.
I agree.
It's not going 5.
I don't think it's going 2, Coach. But we'll get to that a little bit later. That'll be the last fight we break down. But let's get right into it. The main card opener, we have a light heavyweight bout to open the card between Junior Tafa and Tuco Takas. And Coach, this is a fight that I would expect to see on the regional scene, much less opening the main card of, a regional event like UFC Nashville. These fans waited a long time. The last time we had a fight scheduled here was supposed to be Umar Nurmagomedov versus Corey Sandhagen. And you're going to see a lot of this on this card. There are a few exciting fights like we broke down in the intro, but you see a guy who's 6-3 versus a guy who's 10-5 and hasn't won a fight in the UFC. Nonetheless, Tuco has faced some really stiff competition. He's faced Minion Zhang and Navajo Sterling. Those are 2 really, really solid light heavyweights. 2 guys that are, being propped up by the UFC and 2 guys that the UFC want to kind of expose more. But we've got Junior Tafa here, and we've seen him win in the UFC. That's something that I can't say for Tuco. Coach, give me a little bit of insight about this matchup.
Everybody's saying that Junior looks really good. He's in good shape and everything, but that's not going to change the fact that he's not a great fighter. But that being said, okay, both guys are not great. If I could just throw something in real quick, I know we're doing the top 6, but there's some good fights down below. So I just want to tell the people, if you want to see some decent fights when it starts out, watch that for sure and become a fan. But I think that Junior and I think Junior is going to make Taco Tuesday out of Tuco Tacos because I just don't think Tuco is that great. Honestly, Junior has lost some weight and maybe he'll be a little quicker. But, it's not a great fight, but hopefully it'll be a knockout early for Junior.
I agree, Coach. And the thing that I can say about Junior is we've seen him have success in a UFC fight. That's something that we can put down and record that success has happened. And the UFC is a very what have you done for me lately business, like all sports are.
Right.
I haven't seen Tacos have any success. You might as well put Tuco in from Breaking Bad because this guy is not a fighter. He's a punching bag. We saw it in the Navajo Sterling fight. It looked like there were opportunities to clip Navajo Sterling. Navajo looked a little bit nervous. It was his UFC debut, and there was just nothing from the other side from Tuco. So, Coach, I think we're both on the Junior Tafa side here. Not really a fight to watch, but as you said, it may end in fireworks. I think Junior has a lot of power in his hands, especially coming down from heavyweight. This is a guy that could maybe make some noise at 205, and I think the run really starts here.
I also think that Tuco, if he's smart, he'll just lay on this guy because Junior has no ground game.
Agreed.
So, let's move on, brother.
Agreed, Coach. Let's move on. We have Vitor Petrino versus Austin Lane. And when you try to do tape study on this guy, Austin Lane, there's not going to be much because a lot of his internet presence comes under Dewan Lane. I don't know if there's a midlife crisis going on through that. But nonetheless, Coach, I think this is another matchup where you got a guy coming up from 205 into heavyweight in Vitor Petrino. He looks big, coach. This is the first time I'm seeing his picture from Media Day, and he looks really big. I'm used to seeing him in really, really good shape, diced down at 205. And while he still carries those abs up to heavyweight, he looks a little bit big, and I think that may favor him here. I think he's a really, really solid fighter. This is a guy that was once 4-0 in the UFC and very highly regarded by the promotion. I mean, when you get that Anthony Smith fight, that's kind of a ticket into the rankings. Similar at 170 when you get a Neil Magny fight. They kind of want you in the rankings. It's a very beatable guy to enter you into the rankings. And he couldn't get that done. He got caught in a guillotine in the first round. And now is coming off 2 losses in a row. He just got knocked out by Dustin Jacoby. So this is tough. This is kind of a bounce back fight. I mean, when a guy changes divisions like that, it's kind of like a midlife crisis. You take 2 losses after you get 4 wins, and now he wants to go up to heavyweight to fight, less athletic and quick guys. And that's what he's going to get here in Austin Lane. I mean, don't let it fool you that he was a former NFL player. He was drafted in the 5th round by the Jaguars. But this guy is not the greatest fighter in the world. When you're getting knocked out left, right, and center, like you said, Coach, I'll let you break this down. You had a great point when we were doing our little meeting prior to this. But, Coach, break this down a little bit. I know you have a point about Austin Lane and a lot of the head damage that he's taken, not only from fighting, but from his football days.
Well, think about it. When you're a pro football player, you get drafted or whatever, you've probably played since you were 8 years old, and you've been getting hit in the head since you're 8. He is now, and we'll talk about this, he's 37 now. So he's been getting concussed for 20 years plus, and then he goes, I think I'll be a fighter because what else am I going to do besides get inked up on the weekends? So now he's getting his head caved in, and he's taken a lot of damage. And he's in the Ultimate Fighter concussion, which is the UFC. He's probably going to be one of these guys. They take his brain out and go, "Wow, look at the damage. We probably should have stopped him." He was a football player. Now he's a fighter, and he's been knocked around a lot. I think that Petrino is a very good fighter, and I think he's going to take him out with a KO.
Yeah, I happen to agree, Coach. And Austin Lane to me kind of feels like that token story where he's got the kid, I fight for my family. And it also feels like the NFL, or excuse me, the UFC kind of has to have a former NFL athlete at some point on every roster that they have. I don't know. We've had guys like Eric Anders and Greg Hardy at one point, all guys that have played really high level college football. For some reason, the UFC likes that backstory. I'm not sure. I think Austin Lane gets cut with a loss here, and I think Vitor Petrino takes it in brutal fashion. We've seen Austin Lane been chinned before. In his last fight, in fact, by Pinto. Mario Pinto knocked him out cold, and I think Vitor Petrino does the same here. I think it starts his heavyweight run. While I don't think this division really suits him, I think this is a really winnable matchup in Austin Lane.
Yeah, 100%.
Perfect, Coach. Right. Let's move on up the card to a fight that we're both rather excited about, moving on from 2 heavy, kind of sloppy matchups to one that should be rather skilled. We have Nate the Train Landwehr coming back after a rather long layoff against Morgan Charrier. Coach, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one. I know you like Nate the Train, but break it down for me.
He reminds me of Nate the Train Diaz. He's just one of those guys, when he talks, you go, okay, this guy's been doing it for a long. And here's another guy. He's like 37 years old, okay? We've got the Sunshine Boys in a lot of these. If you know anything about movies, Sunshine Boys was a movie about 2 really old guys that are still trying to do whatever they're doing. But I like Nate. He's fun to watch, and he's a brawler, man. And you were talking earlier about bar fights. This could be a bar fight. You like this as the fight of the night. I think Morgan takes him. I like Morgan. He's 15. What is he? 15? No, he's 8 years younger. And the only thing I see is if they go to a 3rd round and it's a decision. I believe Nate is from Atlanta, and they might sway his way because the crowd's going to be with him. He's a hometown boy, and Morgan is a French guy, right?
Correct.
And it's going to be Nate's going to walk in. It's going to be USA, and that's going to pump him up. So it's hard to say where this is going. Morgan is more talented, I think, but Nate's got the vibe, man. If he doesn't get too excited, he could get a decision.
Yeah, Coach, I think you bring up a lot of great points. The thing about Nate is I can only go off his last performance, and that last performance against Doo Ho Choi looked nothing like his performance against David Onama. And that win against David Onama has aged really well. That's a guy who's in the rankings now and is looking at a top 10 name.
That's right.
But for Nate, the Doo Ho Choi fight, the Nate I saw in that fight just looked not just one step behind, but almost three steps behind. Almost like when we saw Tony Ferguson come back against Beneil Dariush
Right.
and then Nate
Right.
Diaz, and then the ball just kept rolling lower and lower and lower. And that's kind of what I see with Nate. And I don't want that to happen, that Tony Ferguson route, because I think this is a dangerous opponent in Morgan Sharia. I think for Nate, this is a guy who's been fighting. You see the record, 18-6. I mean, 24 pro fights is a lot. Morgan with more pro experience, but Nate has been fighting a long, long time in these Japanese promotions like Ryzen. There's a lot of fights that aren't even recorded on his record that he's had. So this is a guy who's taken a lot of damage, as you can tell when he opens his mouth on the mic, both during
Right.
interviews, post-fight interviews. You don't have to even know that this guy's a fighter to know that he's had a lot of brain damage. But the one thing I can say for Nate is Morgan Charrier is not the most talented dude in the division. So the opportunities are going to be there for Nate to weather an early storm and come back in rounds 2 and 3, like we saw with the Onama fight. That was an incredible fight by Nate the Train. I think the toughness is always going to be there for Nate, but I think he's a step behind now. And I think in these lighter divisions, that's huge, coach. I think with heavyweight, you can have a 38-year-old guy in there, in the twilight of his career, still make a run at the title. But for Nate, I think that step is going to be too much against Morgan. Don't let that 2011 record fool you. He's fought a lot of really tough guys in Cage Warriors. He fought Paul Hughes, who just took Usman Nurmagomedov to a really, really close decision. And he was actually in a position where he could have won that fight. It was a majority decision in that fight. He's also fought Jordan Vucenic on the regional scene. Long story short, coach, I'm going to go with Morgan Charrier. I think he's got more tools to get this done, and I think Nate is just a step behind, maybe even 2 steps at this point after that Doo Ho Choi fight.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. Like I said, Nate could win this on a decision. But
For sure.
you guys out there that are like me that don't know as much as the kid, don't let these records fool you. Okay, this guy is 18-6. That's 24 fights. Okay, add 200 more fights to that because it's just like baseball. Okay, the guy might be in major leagues and had 50 at bats. He's had 2,000 at bats coming up.
Yeah.
So this dude is for years and years. They're in the minor leagues. They're all over the world. They're fighting everywhere. Things that you don't even know about that aren't even on YouTube because they're so old. So anyway, yeah, I got to go with Morgan. I think he's but decision by Nate if it goes to that.
100%. So I think if you are in that world where you're placing a bet on it, I think this Nate Landwehr by decision is a good hedge if you are picking Morgan. I think that's a great kind of like toss between, because I think that is Nate's path to victory here, weathering an early storm by Morgan and then winning rounds 2 and 3 or getting a late finish.
Right. Great call.
Perfect, coach. Let's move on to what I believe is your fight of the night here. Calvin Kattar coming off a couple injuries, a couple losses. He's on 4 losses in a row. These guys are on complete career trajectory opposites. Calvin Kattar coming off 4 losses in a row. Steve Garcia coming off of 5 knockout wins in a row, which is tied for the longest streak in the UFC. Coach, Calvin Kattar is a guy that has taken a ton of damage in his career. Not just to the head. We saw him get absolutely beaten by Max Holloway in his first and only title shot, but also to his legs. We saw him have that really bad leg injury against Arnold Allen. We saw him catch tough breaks. I thought he won that decision against Josh Emmett. Ultimately, it goes Emmett's way. Nonetheless, coach, even though these guys are Kattar's heading this way, Steve Garcia's heading this way, I think Garcia has never faced a guy like Kattar, and Kattar is very, very sharp in the pocket and with boxing. He trains with great guys up at Boston at the Boston Cartel. I'm going to let you take this a little bit more, coach, but for me, I think Kattar is really, really sharp. I've seen some training videos, and I think he wants to prove it. He wants to protect that number 14 ranking, and I don't think he wants Steve Garcia in the rankings. I don't think Kattar goes down without a fight here. I think he wins it by 3rd round KO. Coach, what do you think?
I agree with you, and I'll tell you, Garcia has taken a lot of hits, and he's been dropped a lot. Okay, I don't. He's got a. Sometimes the record will fool you.
Yeah.
Even though he's fought a lot, but I think Kattar really wants this, and I got to be honest with you. I wish I was like sitting right up close to this fight, like I could actually get in the cage.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you something. I think. And it's for a different reason. I think a lot of guys are going to be dropping their gloves in the middle of the plate. When I'm looking at what's going on here, you got a 40, 42, 37, 37, 37. and a 35. I mean, we've got a lot of dudes that, like you said, one trajectory or the other.
Yeah,
I mean, they're a loss away from hanging it up. A lot of these guys.
for
How
sure.
much longer can you do this? You know. So I got to go with Cater because I like him anyway. And Garcia, I don't think that much of him. You know, I think Cater's hungry, and you're right. You made a good point. He wants to keep that ranking.
I agree. Yeah, I think the logical play is Steve Garcia, just based off of, like we said, we've been talking about the trajectory of both guys' career. But that can be said for a lot of fights. I mean, we saw Usman and Buckley. The logical pick there was Buckley. I mean, you got a guy who's
Yeah.
on an absolute incredible streak since going down to welterweight, and you got Usman who's coming off of 3 straight losses. I think it's much of the same here. I think Cater's a very savvy veteran. He's fought more competition in 3 fights alone than Steve Garcia has in all 22 of his pro fights. I mean, look at Cater's record, Coach. You've got a brutal win against a guy like Giga Chikadze, who the UFC was really propping up, and then you've got a fight where with Josh Emmett, where I thought he won personally. You've got a fight with Arnold Allen where he hurt his leg. So how much stock can you put into that? And then you've got fights against guys like Max Holloway, who at the time was an absolute killer, who still is an absolute killer. How much stock can you put into those losses? I think you put more stock into those losses than Steve Garcia's wins. And for that, I'm going to say Steve Garcia has never fought a Calvin Kattar or anything like him. I think Kattar mixes up the boxing well, is strong in the pocket, strong in the clinch, and I think he knocks him out late here.
I agree with you. I like Kattar in this one. I think he's hungry. He wants to prove himself. I think he'd like to get back on a main card. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Garcia, I don't know. He's okay, you know, but he's, like I said, he's been dropped a lot. So yeah, I'd go with Kattar.
Agreed, Coach. So that is our underdog pick of the week, Calvin Kattar. It's also the coach's fight of the night pick. Let's move on, Coach. We're in agreement on a lot of these, and I think it's going to be much of the same with this next matchup. We have Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fighting Gabriel Bonfim. Let's get right into it, Coach. You take the reins on this one.
Yeah, 15 years between the two of them. I think Wonder Boy is going to turn into Wonder Man and drop his gloves in the center. I think Bonfim he looks really good, and 17-1. I know that Thompson's day. I like Thompson.
Yeah.
But he's a really nice looking guy too. He should go back to doing booze commercials with Kevin Holland, because he's really charismatic outside of the ring, and he's a good guy, man. Why keep on getting pounded? And I think this guy just looks real. I think the UFC would like to see Gabriel move up, and because he's a stud and he's a Brazilian, so good luck with him.
Yeah, I agree, Coach.
I picked Gabe. I got to go with Gabe because he's a lot younger and he's moving on up.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement. I think he makes some great points, Coach. This feels like a matchup to me where the UFC is building Gabriel's name off of Stephen Thompson, because we talked before in our little meeting prior, and Stephen Thompson is a noble name even to the casual fans, especially with a name like Wonderboy. That's a name that pops into your head. And for the more casual fan, when a name pops into your head like that, like a Sean O'Malley or something like that, Hamzat Chimaev, you instantly relate that to, oh, he's a really good fighter. If I have limited knowledge of this sport and I still know him, he must be really good. So this is a spot for Bonfim to kind of steal that hype from Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. If you're tuning in and you're watching Wonderboy, and all of a sudden this Bonfim guy who you've never heard of goes in and destroys him, all of a sudden this guy has a big fan base because he just beat Wonderboy Thompson in that fashion, and I think that's what the UFC is really trying for here. I think Bonfim is really strong on the ground. Go ahead, Coach.
You know what else, kid? I just want to throw this out there.
Yeah.
For the casual, that I'm kind of like, I'm not a pro like you. I mean, you've got the knowledge. For me, when I started out, when I hear like Notorious, The Train, Wonderboy, it grabs me like a superhero. You know what I mean?
For sure.
You go, oh wow, I've heard of that guy. You know, and having a nickname, you kind of have to earn it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of these guys just throw nicknames out, but I've been hearing this name, and it makes me want to watch him, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that it's sad when you start seeing these guys, like when you watched the fight last week, and you see him you start liking them, and then they get laid out. It's like a bummer. I just hope Steven goes the distance and at least makes a fight out, but I really think Bonfim is going to just, he just looks really powerful to me.
Yeah, it's a tough one, coach, because it feels like the UFC is just giving no favors to a legend like Stephen Thompson. You look at his last couple
100%.
fights, a striking war with Kevin Holland, where it kind of felt like Kevin Holland had a lot of opportunities to grapple, but instead wanted to entertain the fans. And that's a perfect
Right.
matchup for Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. That's great. He's a counter striker. Kevin Holland's going to go forward. If him and Kevin Holland could fight 10 times and then Stephen Thompson could retire, that would be an ideal world for his career because it would be entertaining fights every time. He would take some damage, but not to the point where you're like, oof, he needs to hang it up. But he's been giving no favors. After he didn't accept that fight when Michel Pereira missed weight, it's been weird. He had to fight Shavkat, and now he has to fight Gabriel Bonfim. It's a weird career trajectory for Stephen Thompson, and also having to fight Joaquin Buckley. He's fought killers row in the last three, and it's one thing to fight killers at the top of the division, but when you're fighting guys coming up who aren't even ranked and you're defending your
And
ranked position, it's a
yeah,
tough
and
one.
15 years younger too, kid. Like you said, they're not doing him any favors, and sometimes you wonder, God, did he piss somebody off?
I think he
You
did,
know, it's
coach. Yeah, I think he did.
yeah,
Going back to that story where I was telling you, Michel Pereira missed weight. Stephen Thompson did not want to carry on with the fight because there was a weight miss. And it seems like ever since then, the UFC has had kind of a vendetta against him with a guy
right,
who's kind of
right,
an icon of the sport, which is really weird to me. And the thing about Stephen Thompson's game is he's a very wide karate stance fighter. And so he'll let you get to your game, especially if your game is grappling. We saw that
right.
in a few fights. We saw that against Bilal Muhammad. We saw that against Shavkat Rakhmonov. And now I think we're going to see much of the same against Gabriel Bonfim. And I think what you're saying is I hope it goes quietly. I hope it's like the Shavkat fight where it's not a lot of damage and Shavkat, takes his back and latches up a rear naked choke. But I don't think it's going to be that. I think Gabriel Bonfim's going to get on top, and I think he's going to pound his way out to a TKO victory in the second round.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the thing is he's got power on his feet and he's got a really good ground game.
Yeah.
I think he's going to take him out by submission, and it's going to be pretty early. Um, I I go back to I think about these guys that I think Dana gets really spoiled by these guys, and he loves these guys. I'll take any fight. Just
Yeah.
I'll fight like Josh Van. I'll fight next week. I don't care. I'm ready.
Yeah.
And so if a guy says, I'm not ready, I don't want to fight. I want the money, or whatever. He pisses these people off. And
Yeah.
so they go, okay, that's fine. We're going to give you somebody that's like 15 years younger. Good luck, bro.
Yeah, I think that is a point that I wasn't even thinking about, and I think that's a really, really valid point that you bring up, Coach. One more point I want to bring up before we do get on to the main event. For everybody that is new into MMA and is just getting into training, the one thing I will say about Stephen Thompson is he has a great YouTube channel that has a lot of instructional videos. His kicks are incredible. His punches are incredible. Go watch that. Go check out Wonder Boy's YouTube channel if you're just getting into training and you're really interested in the UFC. I know we do a lot of breakdowns and a lot of recaps, but that's something that we really want to get people into is our main reasoning behind the sport is we want to bridge that gap between casual and the more serious fan. And at the end of the day, if we can inspire people to watch MMA and even get in there and train, that is our goal. So one thing I will say about Wonderboy, like my coach and my co-host here said, Wonderboy's a great guy. Go check out his YouTube channel because he's
Yeah,
not going
and
to be fighting very much longer after this fight. So he needs the YouTube subscribers.
yeah, and it's a good transition for him. Hopefully, he won't take too much damage because I'll tell you, the guy looks good. He speaks well. He knows his stuff. I think it's time to transition into coaching, which wouldn't be a bad thing.
I agree. Coaching and broadcasting, get him on the team. He's a very, very eloquent and well-spoken guy. Let's get him on the broadcast team. I mean, kind of, you can cycle him in with Paul Felder and Bisping on some of these, lower tier cards. Anyways, besides the point, Coach, let's get on to the main event. Derek the Black Beast Lewis, the knockout king of the UFC, versus Taliesin Teixeira. And this is kind of an underwhelming main event, Coach. We're just going to be completely transparent with the fans and with the people that watch our videos. The more casual fans are going to be hyped for Derek Lewis. You see the highlight package. You see him knocking out Volkov. You see him knocking out Curtis Blades. He's got wins over Ngannou. Don't let that fool you, Coach. He was losing all of those fights. The Ngannou win, on paper, it looks impressive. It was one of the most boring heavyweight fights in UFC history. He was getting dismantled by Volkov for 4 rounds before he landed that huge blow. Nonetheless, it's a win on the record. But you see losses to Cyril Gahn. You see losses to Tai Tuivasa. You see what I believe to be fluke wins against guys like Volkov. Tough, Coach. I think this is A toss-up matchup, as most matchups at heavyweight are, but this is a huge Brazilian in Talison Teixeira. Derek Lewis kind of relies on his ability to get into the pocket to land those blows and you coming forward so he can land that off the back foot. I think Talison Teixeira is going to be too long for him here, and I think it's going to be an early stoppage. But what do you think, Coach? Give me some analysis. Give me some breakdown here.
Well, here's two guys you won't be seeing in the announcer's booth for sure. And I feel like Derek is just another gimmick guy.
Yeah.
One guy drinking a beer out of a shoe, a fat guy drinking a beer out of a shoe, a fat guy taking his pants off and saying his balls are sweaty. And don't get me wrong, both of these guys are big fat knockout guys. Okay, but once they get hit, they're getting chased around the ring until they hide out and they just get ground and pound on top of them, and it rains down. And I see Teixeira just, if he doesn't get taken out early, he's going to beat the crap out of this guy. I will say this, Derek has very little skill. He's just got a powerful knockout punch. Okay. But Teixeira, even though he is very hittable, he's got a really good chin. And once again, we've got 15 years difference.
Yeah.
And you're not going to see two guys on their bikes in this one. They're not going to be running around the ring. They're going to be just they're going to dance around, check the length, and then somebody's going to start throwing, and somebody else is going to. I just hope that Teixeira doesn't lay on him for 5 rounds, because I mean it's like watching whales wash up on the beach, and I can't stand that. So I see Teixeira taking him out unless Derek gets lucky again with a punch, and he's probably going to be looking for that.
Yeah, and that's the thing about a Derek Lewis fight, is there always is the threat of the great equalizer. We've seen it in multiple fights, and like you said, he really is a one-trick pony, Coach. I think you bring up a great point, but like we said in the intro, this could easily turn into a sloppy bar fight. If no one lands in the first 2 rounds, the longer this fight goes, the sloppier it's going to get, and the technique that is already very sparse in general is going to be little to none by the 3rd round. So like you said, let's hope this ends in the first 2.
Here's what jumps out at me, okay?
Yeah.
Couple of things. 25 years old, 6'7", 8-0, Brazil. Okay, that's you put all that together, and you got a guy that's proud, is probably well-rounded, and does not want to lose. And he is big. He's big. So, Derek is, talk about hittable. This guy's a blimp, and I just think Talison looks fit, way fitter.
Yeah.
Unless Derek walks in with a 6-pack, he's going down.
Yeah, I agree, and it's incredible to say that Teixeira is the more fit man if you look at that body in front of anybody. But you look at Derek Lewis, and pretty much anybody in the UFC would be more fit than this guy. He has almost no cardio. The gas tank is terrible. The ground game is non-existent. He's got a huge right overhand as well as a huge left. Let's see if he can land it, Coach. That's what it comes down to. Either he lands the big knockout blow or he doesn't. He's not going to win a decision here, and he sure as hell is not going to submit him. I think Teixeira has way more paths to victory.
I think both these guys train at the Nate Diaz body sculpting shop.
Yeah.
So it's just, I am not a fan of these big heavyweight bouts. When a guy walks in and he's like, if he's built like RoboCop, I'm like, holy crap!
Yeah.
This guy is not screwing around, man.
I agree, Coach, and I would almost rather see. I know it's not something that the fans would like. I know, obviously, down south, Nashville, they want 2 big heavyweight bangers. This is kind of a perfect fight for UFC Nashville. But in terms of skill on display, I think Cater versus Garcia would be a way more fit 5-rounder.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't think anybody that's a heavyweight wants to go 5 rounds, because you're going to get, if it goes 5 rounds, you're going to get 2 or 3 rounds where guys are just touching each other. And maybe shooting once in a while. And if they shoot and land, they're going to lay on the other guy. And then it's going to be, oh, my God, I'm going to go out and make a pizza, come back and watch the 5th. Because it just gets to be, it's boring. And I'm telling you, down there where they've been hurting and hungering for fights, there's going to be a boo fest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I agree, Coach.
And there's a lot of fans, like like a lot of fans that don't know much about jiu-jitsu or anything, they see a guy lay on a guy, they are just the boo birds are coming out, brother, and then the announcers are gonna have to talk about something else totally while this guy's lay. and hopefully they're going to have a rep that's going to say, "Hey, up, let's go, let's throw."
Yeah, I agree, Coach. I think this is a very lackluster card on paper, but like we said, if there are fights, we're going to cover them, and there have been a lot of really bad looking cards on paper that have over delivered. I think that's a common theme where the UFC puts out these products and it ends up being, you know what, all these guys are thinking, I'm going to steal the show. This card doesn't have a lot of name value, so this is going to be my opportunity to steal the show. So like you said, Coach, there's a few women's fights on the prelims that you were looking at that you were really excited about, and there's a couple of the heavier big boys on the prelims as well, but I encourage you guys to watch this card. I mean, at least the Wonderboy Thompson versus Bonfim, as well as the Cater versus Garcia. Those are two of our fights to watch. But yeah, tune in for a little bit. If this is your first event, maybe this isn't the best one to get into. Let's tune into Poirier versus Holloway in a couple weeks. But if you are a solid fan, tune into this card. There could be a lot of really good finishes. And, you know, I'm going to stay optimistic about this one, Coach.
Well, you know, the fight starts at what time does it start? Like 6 o'clock Pacific time, because we're on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So, you know, have a good day. The weather will probably be great. Do whatever you got to do, and then just go get yourself a pizza and whatever you like to drink. And I don't condone betting at all, because I don't bet and I don't drink, but I enjoy it. I enjoy the fights. We're not telling you to bet or anything, because I don't think it's a good thing. If you feel like it, I would, if I was a bettor, I probably wouldn't throw any money down on anything on this card.
Yeah.
You could take our advice and maybe tell your buddy, hey, I'll bet you a buck. I'll bet you a buck this guy wins. You know, if you feel like you just want to lose $1, fine. It's not a big deal. But yeah.
Yeah, there are no good spots on this card, Coach. Up and down the card, I think I'm not super confident about any of them. I mean, this is a card that we've broke down a couple times in private, and we have our picks. We're in agreement on I believe all 6 in a row. But yeah, this is a very up and down card. A lot of elder statesmen fighting guys that are on the come up. But you know what? It's a fight night, and we didn't have any fights last week, and they were really missed. So, Coach, we'll be back soon. We'll be back to recap this event, a short, probably a 10-minute recap. I'll be back with a couple other videos addressing the Ilia Topuria situation and who he should fight next, whether it should be Paddy Pimblett, Arman Sarukian, or a guy like Islam Makhachev. Yeah, I'll be back with 2 videos this week, and then we'll have the Coach and the Kid recapping probably on Sunday. You'll probably see that video on Monday, and then we'll be back for bigger events. We're going to have Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier in a huge bout, and we're also going to have Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis. Those events are going to be really exciting. We're going to have longer videos for that. We'll probably do a full card breakdown. Coach, it was a pleasure to have you. I'm sure we'll be back soon.
Hey, Kid,
go ahead.
Let me say one more thing before we leave.
Of course.
When I was a kid, we used to watch the Saturday night fights with my dad. We'd sit around and watch the fights. It was in black and white, because I'm 100 years old, and it was a real treat. So get yourself some food, some wings or whatever. Call your friend up, because I believe it's on ESPN, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so you're getting a free fight, and it's entertainment, and you can sit. There's a lot of time in between with these bigger fights. They're pretty quick with getting them one after another.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, so get a friend or a couple friends and some pizzas and hang out and just enjoy the fights, because we just give you what we think.
Yeah.
But you never know with these fights. I mean, we've seen a lot of surprises, and so enjoy it. Learn about it, and be safe out there, everybody. Thanks a lot.
For sure, Coach. And one more thing I might add, this is in front of a live crowd. It's not an Apex event where you got 12 people there. There's going to be energy. There's going to be, people are going to have that Southern energy there in the building in Nashville. Fans have been clamoring for an event in this little region, in Tennessee. So I think this is perfect. There's a lot of fights that could over-deliver. Yeah, Coach, let's end it on that. I appreciate your time. Once again, this is our second installment of The Coach and the Kid. We're looking forward to a ton more. Coach, have a great day, and we'll see you on Sunday for the recap.
Take care, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for watching. Drop a comment down below. Appreciate you guys.